spiritual insight, practical wisdom. Join us as we transform the world one woman at a time. Women of Grace, for such a time as this. Now, here's your host, Johnnette Williams.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams, and I am live with you today, and so happy to be back here with you on radio. It has been a very busy time in my life, and I'm so appreciative that we all pray for each other, because we all need that prayer. And when we stand together at the throne of God, my goodness, marvelous things happen, and they never cease happening. We have to keep our eyes open sometimes to find the beauty in the midst of what can come in, kind of like disastrous looking packaging, but God is in the midst of all things. And so I want to hear from you today. We certainly do want to talk with you, and it is Wednesday, and Sue Brinkman is with us, and she's going to be up with us here in just a moment or two. But how has God shown up in your life recently? This is what I'd like to know. And I know that we all need to have that encouragement. So please do weigh in with your questions for Sue on Wacky Wednesday, as well as letting us know all of the splendiferous ways. Don't you love that word? Splendiferous ways that God is about a great work in your life today. Let me give you the number to use. We've got Ryan Penny out there on the phones today. He is call screening. He's eager to hear from you. We want to keep that man busy. I'm telling you, keep him busy. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way that you can join us right here on Women of Grace Live, where we do love having that holy conversation with you. 833-288-3986. You can also join us out there in social media land. We've got Jeff Burson, our producer, also our social media manager, who will go out there to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. And what will he do? He's going to collect your questions, your comments, your insights, your inspirations, your words of encouragement, and he'll put them up on the board for us here, and we will be able to address them. So we certainly do invite you again to give us a call, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way we want to hear from you by phone. It's toll free for you right here in North America. As I said, Ryan Penny on the phones, and out there in social media land, EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page, Jeff Burson, producer, social media maven, will grab those questions and comments and get them up on the board for us today. So, I sit here surrounded by books. I love books, and I've been a collector of books for a long time. I occasionally have to go through my books and share them with others, simply because there's too many of them. And, you can only keep so many things in a house. And when they start growing up the walls, then you know that it's time to really kind of do a little bit of pruning in the book area. But I sit here in front of me. I've got a number of documents of the Catholic Church. I have Divine Intimacy, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I have my book, Graceful Living, that's available for you out there at EWTNRC.com. It's a beautiful little book of reflections. I've got one of the installments of the Liturgy of the Hours in front of me. I've got a book that says True Men as We Need Them. It's a reprint I think it's by Roman Catholic Books. I think it might be a really good book from, a century or two ago that really reminds us of what masculinity is meant to be. A beautiful book. And I have one opened on my lap here called The Interior Life, Simplified to Its Fundamentals, edited by Very Reverend Father Joseph Tissot. And this is one of those books that I picked up somewhere. I can't tell you where I got this book. Roman Catholic Books is where I got this book. And I'm looking at chapter 7, and it's a general view. And this comes underneath the title of Peace. We're all looking for peace, right? Excuse me. We're all looking for that peace that surpasses understanding. And here in a section, it's a paragraph 32 under liberty that comes underneath this subcategory of peace. It says, when God becomes my one thing needful, he also becomes my one sole Lord. I know that when I become anyone's slave to obey him, I am the slave of him whom I obey, whether it be of sin unto death or out of obedience unto justice. And I think that bears a little bit of pondering. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us to think about this one question. Is God my one thing needful? Is God my one sole Lord? Do I have allegiance to any person, place, thing, ideology that replaces God as my one thing needful? Do I have anything, any person, any place, any ideology, any thought, any proclivity, any sin that I place higher than our Lord? Is God truly my one sole Lord? Is he Lord of my life? And do I work hard cooperating with grace, the grace that comes to us through our baptism, the grace that is strengthened in us through confirmation, the grace that feeds us and nourishes us that comes to us by way of the Eucharist, the grace that heals us that comes to us by way of the sacrament of reconciliation, the grace that comes to us in the sacrament of the anointing of the sick if we need that for any physical, mental, emotional, psychological troubles. Do I cooperate with that grace and subject everything to those graces so that the Lord can become my one thing needful, that God can become our one sole Lord? We talk about peace, the peace that surpasses understanding. That is the wellspring of that peace that surpasses understanding. God as my one thing needful, God as my one sole Lord. Whatever I put over top of the Lord, whatever is more important to me, person, place, thing, ideology, proclivity, sin, weakness, frailty, you name it, attraction, you name it, attachment, you name it, anything that I put over him is certain to cause a lack of peace within me. It is certain to begin a process of destructive influence in my life. It is certain to become the destroyer of my union with him who is the source, who is the wellspring, who is the summit of true goodness from which peace flows. So it's a big question to ask, isn't it? But these are the questions that we should be asking ourselves all of the time. This will lead us to a very good examination of conscience. This will lead us into the sacrament of reconciliation, that we might be healed of whatever that is that we would put in a position of dominance, put in a position of lordship over us. Because God is the one whom we need. God is there with all things. And no matter how hell may seek to rage around us, if Jesus Christ is the Lord of our life, if Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is our God, I can assure you that there will be peace in the midst of the chaos, peace in the midst of the difficulty, peace in the midst of the cross, peace in the midst of the suffering. There will be peace. And you will know that all things work together for the good, for those who are created according to the purposes of God. And you, my friend, were created just for that. You were created according to the plan of God, that you might know him, love him, and serve him in this life, serving him, living out your call and duty in this life, that you might spend all eternity with him in heaven. When we come back, here we are on this Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is going to be with us. We're looking for your questions right here. Let me give you the number, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way you can join us. Get out there to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel, Facebook page. Use the chat feature. We're coming back to you. Stay tuned.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Every single day, I get to help our listeners of the Sunrise Morning Show wake up, find out what's going on in the church and the world, and then walk with them as we all seek to grow in knowledge and love of Jesus Christ and the Catholic faith. I mean, how could it get any better?
The Sunrise Morning Show with Anna Mitchell and Matt Swain. Tomorrow morning, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Ever feel like life is just too busy, too much? Constant noise, social life, traffic, work, paying bills, it just doesn't seem to let up. Well, maybe it's time for a change. God offers us relief and hope. So if you're feeling like you need more peace and less chaos, then find your hope today. Begin at CatholicsComeHome.com.
Bishop Robert Barron.
I've been a priest for 31 years. It's a call to a total gift to Christ. It's a total gift of one's life to be conformed to Christ. And that's why I felt it when I was a young guy and I was kind of getting into religion and understanding it more deeply intellectually. It just began to hit me with a great clarity that if this is true, if God is real and God is a supreme good, well, why wouldn't I give my whole self to God? Why would I get distracted by anything else, Now, again, I'm not saying that should be true for every single person on the planet. That's the way it hit me when I was a young guy, was I want to give as much as I can, my whole self to Christ. So there's something heroic about that, where you do eschew a lot of things. You say no to a lot of things so you can say massively yes to Christ and to his demand. I think that's a heroic quality of it.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Encouraging women in their gift of authentic femininity. Here's more Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Welcome back, friends. You are listening to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams. Happy to be with you today. It is Wednesday, and you know what Wednesday is around these parts. It's Wacky Wednesday. We have Sue Brinkman with us. We talk about all things wacky that are going on out there, and I mean to tell you what, you don't have to look far to see something wacky happening. I mean, it could be happening right in your own neighborhood, right in your own front lawn, probably. So we invite you to give us a call here with any questions or comments that you might have about anything wacky that you see. This is our opportunity, too, to dig into the New Age movement and to the tenets of the New Age movement to help us to understand some of the modalities and the various kinds of manifestations of it that we see taking place within our culture today. And they are legion. They're just, multiplying as the days go by. And the biggest threat to us, I think, is the fact that they've become so mainstream, we don't even see them as odd anymore. And there's a certain credibility that's given to these things by way of institutions that we hold in high esteem. So when you go into a hospital or you go into some other kind of a clinic and you see offerings for, Reiki, and you see offerings for yoga, and you see offerings for all of these kinds of things, it gives a certain credibility to those things, right? We figure that they must be okay because this institution that we hold in high esteem is talking about them, is offering them. The same with our Catholic parishes, our Catholic retreat houses. The same goes for some of our community centers, institutions of higher learning, etc. So because they become so entrenched in the ordinary stuff of life, and because they've begun to hold a very prominent position within these institutions that we hold with high regard, we begin to think that it must be okay. It's kind of like if something becomes a law, we automatically think it's moral. It's licit. It's okay to do. Whether it goes from smoking dope out there in Colorado to abortion for teenage children or women at any age, we begin to think because it's the law, it must be okay. Well, that's false thinking. That is a lure. It's a trap of the evil one. And just because something is legal or an institution of high esteem holds it in a certain particular regard, that does not mean it is okay. And so we have to be very, very good consumers. And if we see anything that we're putting higher than God himself, we have a problem. Right? And this is the question that we always have to be asking ourselves as we began with today. And Sue Brinkman's with us, and we want you to call in with your questions so that we can give you the information that you need to have so that you can make a prudent judgment. That prudentially you can determine if something is for you or not for you. Unless you have all of the knowledge, you're gonna end up erring. And that's true for every single one of us. Right? It says in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, my people perish, P-E-R-I-S-H. What does that mean? They die. My people perish for lack of knowledge. For lack of knowledge. Knowledge is not antithetical to our reasoning process. It should hold central position. Our emotions and everything need to be subjected to the knowledge that we have. And that knowledge that we want to have is that knowledge that comes from the heart of God, his very wisdom, which he imparts to us through the sacramental structure of our church. So the point being, we have got to be individuals who act prudentially, not haphazardly, not because something's a fad, not because something makes us feel good, not because something makes us feel important, but because we know that this is in our best interest. And what's the best interest that we have? Is it our health? No. You know what it is? It's our eternal life. It's our salvation. Our best interest is about our salvation. So if something's going to help us get to life on high in Christ Jesus, Okie dokie. If it's not, or if it's going to present some kind of a barrier, an obstruction to where we want to go, then what we have to do is we have to say no to it. No matter how enticing it might be, no matter how much we want to go in that direction, no matter how good it makes us feel, no matter how well the pain goes away, it doesn't really matter. So there you have it. My 2 cents for today. Going to give you those numbers again, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way that you can join us live here on Women of Grace Live, where we love to have holy conversation with you. Again, Ryan Penny, call screening, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Jeff Burson, our producer, also our social media maven out there in cyberspace, and he's going to grab your questions or comments that are left for us there at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. You can see me. I'm waving to you there. All of that being said, we invite you to get on out there and use that way to reach us as well. Sue Brinkman, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm happy to be back with you and with everybody. Been away for a couple of days, but praise be to God, here we are.
That's
so
right.
I'm glad. Phone lines are lighting up, but I know that we want to talk a little bit about crystals. Now, this is something, that really captured our attention back in the 80s and the 90s, but they really have not left us alone in terms of the New Age's, what do I want to call them? The New Age's kind of confiscating of crystals. Crystals are made by God. They're beautiful things, right?
Mm-hmm.
They present to us prisms of light, So crystals in and of themselves don't have a problem. It's what the New Agers assign to crystals that creates an issue, right?
Absolutely. The New Agers have given crystals a very bad name. And in fact, I wrote a blog by that title yesterday, how the New Age gave crystals a bad name, because every year around this time of year, we receive email from people who receive jewelry for Christmas, and it was crystals, and they're worried about it. They're worried about wearing gemstones and different things because of the superstitious uses of the stones in the New Age. And like you were saying, it's become very mainstream. It's not just a fringe anymore. Now it's out there advertised on websites, wear turquoise and let loose your feminine energy. It's like, what? Turquoise is just a beautiful, vibrant stone. It's one of my favorites. I love turquoise. But they've attached all these spiritual meanings to things, and people are afraid to use it. I had one woman write to me who received something beautiful from her husband and thought she would have to give it back. And I thought, oh my gosh, no, absolutely not. Crystals, as you said, and other stones, they are all part of God's creation. There is nothing evil about them. We have the right to wear those objects in tribute to our God and the thoughtful person who gave them to us, right? Without regard to what the New Age is saying, because that's just a bunch of hokey nonsense. New Agers believe that crystals have a power. That's really where that comes from. That they believe that they store and direct energy, and that that they can this energy includes electrical, includes psychic, includes magnetic and nuclear, all kinds of energy that is supposedly absorbed into these stones. And that even the touch of humans is in there, by the way, which is why some people will cherish a particular stone because a loved one has touched it and they believe it's imprinted it. And that you can then use those stones and hold those stones and draw all that power into yourself. So you can see right then and there, this is a superstitious use of that object. Why? Because you're attaching a power to it that, first of all, it doesn't have, but you are worshiping whatever power might be deciding to lurk behind that belief of yours rather than putting your faith in God. And what they do is they say that certain stones have certain powers. And they will use different things such as, I think, coral. Is it coral that let me see here. Oh, labradorite has very iridescent colors. It's very beautiful. But in the New Age, it's you use that stone to expand your spiritual awareness, and it serves as a bridge between heaven and earth. It's like, what? Who believes this stuff? But people do believe it. Topaz, to me, is such a beautiful light blue stone. I think it's very, very pretty. They say that's male energy is in there. They believe that wearing that stone is going to strengthen you. It's not. that's really using a stone more like a talisman. You might as well just put a rabbit's foot in your pocket and say, okay, I believe in this.
Yeah.
Because I've got topaz in here, so I must be strong. So, certain types and colors of stones, they're believed to enhance psychic powers, to ward off depression even. But one of the worst things is how they're used to heal. And we received years ago, and I'm still in touch with this person, by the way, who underwent horrific spiritual damage after submitting herself to crystal therapy. It unleashed all kinds of spirits on her. The spirits that this practitioner was calling upon, thinking she's calling upon these rocks, right? She's actually calling upon the spirits that are feeding into this whole scheme of hers, who of course we know are demons. And she had to be delivered of spirit after spirit after spirit that had gotten a hold of her. I managed to see her personally just a few years ago, and she's doing a lot better, but she still has to be, she's still working with a priest to help her along the way. But in fact, the article that I wrote, it's a very riveting testimony. It does link to it, so you could read her story for yourself. And she actually wrote it and said, this is what happened to me as a result of dealing in crystals. So although the ideas behind them are, seem a little bit fantastic or a lot fantastic, but there's also dangers, spiritual dangers, and putting your faith in objects and assuming that they have some kind of power. Because when you use them in that way, you're calling upon a power, and that power might decide to answer you, and it's not God.
Yeah. And I just want to interject here, Sue, because I want to tease out some of the things that you've said here for further explanation before we go to the phone lines. And one of the things that I want to say is this is what happens when we put anything above God having the sole position of number one in our lives. And so everything has to be subjected to this knowledge of who God is. And we have to have a right and proper understanding of who God is. And one of the problems that we get into with regard to all of this has to do with this energy that people talk about. And so I'm going to have you define that energy for us that they're talking about versus the kind of measurable energy that we know about, and how that energy really is a false god, if you will. It's a pagan understanding of the world. It's an occult, OCCULT view of the world. And the next thing I want to say is that the evil one uses any opportunity he possibly can to influence our lives in the negative way in which he chooses to prevail upon us. And so our gullibility, in looking at these objects and assigning to them a power, he will jump into that. He knows that piece of rock has no power whatsoever. He knows that. But he will use our gullibility and thinking that it does to prevail upon us through assigning, a spiritual entity, a demon, to that particular what do I want to say, that void of understanding that we have. And that's what will begin to play havoc with us. They jump in where we are where our credulity will take us. So the fact of the matter is we have to be very, very careful that we understand who God is and who God is not. So help us with that in terms of this knowledge of this energy that people think these things have.
Yeah, it's just another form of temptation. I just want to add in that's temptation into these kind of practices. We like to think of temptation as just being, temptation, to gossip or to steal or whatever. But this is also temptation. This is how he tempts you. Come over here, try this, because he knows he's going to be lurking behind that and he's going to be able to get a hold on you. But the energy that they're talking about in the New Age is a putative form of energy known as a universal life force. It's also known as chi, ki, prana, vital force. There's all different kinds of ways of talking about this, but this is a form of energy that supposedly permeates the entire universe and everything in that universe. So it's part of a pantheistic belief system, because they believe, New Agers as a matter of fact, but a lot of Eastern religions where this comes from, that's sort of like their God. And because this energy permeates everything, you and I are gods. That energy is God, and he's in everything, so therefore everything is a God. And that's why they worship everything, and they also worship themselves and think that there's inner divinity. That's what their enlightenment is all about. They're trying to unleash their their inner divinity. But this type of energy has never been scientifically proven to exist.
Right. It's
And
assumed.
It's assumed. And what happens here is that a lot of the practitioners who use energy medicine, they like to sort of make it look as though this is a veritable form of energy. And a veritable form of energy is a scientifically proven forms of energy. And that includes things like electromagnetic forces, mechanical vibrations. That's what sound is. Monochromatic radiation. We all know that, and we can measure that. But there is no way of measuring this putative form of energy because, well, for one thing, it doesn't exist. And yet they claim that you can just go ahead out there and manipulate this energy. Well, how can you manipulate something that you can't even measure? So it's all, like you said, just assumed. You're just assuming that they're doing it. Energy medicine is one of the biggest frauds of our time. It's the biggest waste of money. There's nothing in it except, a nice placebo effect, if that. And other than that, it's just a drain on the wallet because there is nothing to it. And there's so many practices out there. Oh, Johnnette, since we first started this blog, I would have to say more than 100 more things are based on this energy. Every time I turn around, another one's coming out. Thank God for the people who read our blog and send us questions, because this is how I find out about all this stuff.
Well, that's true.
What about this and what about that?
You give me a good opportunity. I mean, Sue is the researcher for our New Age blog that's available for you out there at womenofgrace.com. There is nothing like it anyplace else. You can go out there and search for a particular topic and things will come up. And Sue is right. I mean, it's hearing from you that permits us to have the insight as to what it is that needs to be researched. And then Sue does the research, journalistic research, meaning that it's held to a very high standard, and what you get is really very vitally important information that helps you to know the truth from that which is deceptive. And I just want to give you a little thing. It helps to know the etymology of words. I love words. And putative comes from the Latin word putare, which means to be supposed or judged to be. Supposed or judged to be. Veritable comes from the Latin word veritatis, veritas, which is truth, right? So it's truthful because it's measurable. It's scientifically proven. Putative it's a judgment call. This is what I think. This is what I suppose. Well, you know where that generally leaves us when we're making important decisions. I think this, therefore I will do this. Oftentimes puts us into, a situation or a circumstance where we haven't come up with the right answer, or come to the right conclusion or made the right decision. We weigh the facts, right? That's veritable. And the facts point to the fact that this putative energy doesn't exist. That's what the facts tell us. It doesn't exist. And there's industries, as you say, Sue, that have been built on this. So interesting discussion here about crystals, about energy. We've got lots of you calling in today. We're going to go to a break and come back and go to the phone lines. Want to give you the number again. Ryan Penny is being kept busy, and it makes me so happy when he is a busy boy. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. We want to keep Jeff busy too, so we invite you to get out there to social media land and put a question in the chat feature at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel or Facebook page, and Jeff will retrieve it and get it up on the air for us. We are very excited that you're calling in, and I want to tell you this topic needs to be discussed. We're going to be right back with you after the break, inviting you to stay tuned.
Dr. David Anders' powerful book, The Catholic Church Saved My Marriage, is now available as an audiobook, narrated by Dr. Anders. Get your copy now. Go to audible.com and search David Anders.
Now we have today's quote for you from Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar. As soon as the woman who said, "If I touch the hem of his garment, I shall be healed," touched the hem of his garment, her touch brought forth the power of God. What a thing faith is. Mother Angelica's perpetual calendar features an inspirational message for each day of the year. It's available from the EWTN Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com. That's EWTNRC.com.
And I'm Doug Keck. This EWTN Bookmark Brief just had the pleasure of speaking with Vinnie Flynn and his lovely daughter Erin about their latest book, Mass and Adoration Companion, published by TAN Books, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. Vinnie and Erin, could you give us an overview of what this book's about and why people would be interested in it?
Well, I'm hoping people will be interested in it as a companion, that's as the title suggests. So we've tried to select prayers and quotes from saints and popes and catechism and scripture that will help people to enter more completely and more fully into the Mass.
There are two sections. There's a spiritual communion section. In the back, there's a section with litanies and novenas and other prayers that they can use whenever.
Thank you so much, Vinnie and Erin Flynn, for this work, Mass and Adoration Companion. Again, available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. You get it today. This has been a Bookmark Brief. We appreciate you stopping by.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. Do you have questions about the Catholic faith? Get the answers on Call to Communion, coming up this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Transforming the world one woman at a time. Let's return to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Welcome back, friends. You are listening to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams. Happy to be with you. My goodness. Full boat of calls here. We're going to ask you to join in, too, as soon as we get a phone line available to you. And we're going to go right to the phone. Sue Brinkman with us. It's Wednesday. That's why she's here. It's Wacky Wednesday. We talk about all things wacky. Begin our discussion with crystals today, and also a definition of what is putative energy versus veritable energy. And during the break here, I jumped up and ran back to my bookcase and pulled a book off of the bookshelf. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Those of you that are out there at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page can see it. I'm holding it up. It's called the New Age Catalog, published in 1988. I began my study of the New Age back in 1984-ish or so. It seems to me it was around then. At any rate, it might have been 87. I don't know. It was in that time period. But anyway, there's a whole, this is written by New Agers, by the way, with articles and books that you can purchase. And there's actually places where it tells you to go to get crystals to do different things. So, this has been part and parcel of the whole deal for a long time. Actually, I see when I got this book November 23rd, 1992. So that's when I purchased the thing. It was published in 1988. Anyway, it goes to show you that even back then, in the 80s, this stuff was really out there big time. There's a whole section on here, the true spirit of New Age music, and it talks about the essence of New Age music lies in the power of sound to actually vibrate the body's psychic energy centers and transform our awareness to awaken within us that spark of universal love and oneness with all that is. Now, there is a perfect description of what we're talking about with regard to this, oversoul of energy, this life force energy, vital energy, chi, ki, prana, all of that, and this oneness with all that is. That oneness is that overriding New Age energy, and you begin to see the New Agers talking about it themselves. Why do I tell you that? Just so that you know that Sue and I are not wacky.
We just sound wacky, but we're not really wacky.
We're talking about wacky things, but we've done the research for many, many decades now. I mean, it's going back. I don't even want to think about it. Not quite 40 years, but leaning in that direction. So we're going to get out here now and answer some questions, Sue, because we've got lots and lots of people. We have Marcia up first. She's with us from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Sirius XM 130 is the way she's with us. Hey, Marcia, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you. Good to talk to both of you.
Thank you.
I'm really confused about something. I've read a lot about, like, Sue's book and also some books written by priests that are exorcists. And also we have a priest here that talks about this. But they say that when there are hauntings or people see ghosts, that it's actually demons and that they're not human souls, but they can mimic the human souls. Mm-hmm. And then there are other priests that say, oh, no, those are souls that are wanting to go to heaven, but they're locked in this world and they need your prayers. Which way does this go anyway?
It's a wonderful question, and thank you for asking that. I just want to clarify that the predominance of the people out there will tell you that hauntings are more than likely. In fact, that's the position of the church. Is that any kind of manifestation of the dead, such as what would take place even at, seances, mediumship, any way of conjuring the dead, a haunting of some kind, that diabolical agencies may be responsible for those manifestations that do occur. Now, the dead can appear. They can appear. God will permit that, but they appear to ask for prayer, or to at least look at their loved one with a pleading look, like you'll know that they need help. However, hauntings, do they haunt a house? Does a ghost come back to the house? It's not possible for the human person to do that. We don't have the power to do that. When we die, our soul leaves the body, and we essentially become just a mind, or a disembodied soul. In a book by Cardinal Lepicier, and I mentioned this, I think, in the last show, The Unseen World, we'll all receive these special intellectual abilities from God at the moment of death that's going to enable us to function without our bodies. And this is needed because all of our thought processes, the whole way we communicate with the material world, is through the senses: sight, sound, taste, feeling, right? And we won't have senses anymore because we don't have our bodies. So it follows then that after we're cut off from our senses, we also lose the ability to communicate with the material world. And that's what theologians do teach, that part of being a physical and spiritual creature means that you use your physical bodies to communicate with physical creatures on earth. And that once you die, you no longer have that ability. So, okay, how do souls appear? Let's say God says, okay, this soul, I'm going to let the soul appear to ask for prayer. Well, they have to borrow a body, so to speak. And they would have to borrow that body by either a supernatural or a preternatural power, because they're the only ones who have the ability to do that. Okay? And we have God, that's a supernatural, and then we have angels and demons who are preternatural power. So they have the power to do that. Now, when God allows somebody to appear, it's always for a reason. It's never just to haunt the house and make the floorboards creak or throw pots and pans around, such as poltergeist activity in that. He doesn't do that. It's only for a reason that he will send someone back. And you'll know what that reason is, and then you won't see them again. Ghosts, however, they come around and they haunt the house. They just do everything in their power to scare the bejeebies out of us. This is what they do. Well, who's behind that? Well, God's not going to do things like that. He would never be involved with any kind of a medium such as the Long Island medium. He would never do that, because he tells us in Scripture in Deuteronomy 18:10 that people who do that are an abomination to him, and he would never contradict himself. His angels have the power to do this, to allow a body to appear, but our angels, the good angels, exist solely to do the will of God. So they're not going to get involved in it either. If God thinks it's an abomination, the angels aren't going to do that. So who would be left? There's only one other power that has the ability to make a human form, out of nowhere, and that would be a demon. So that's why the church teaches what she does. That's why she says, hey, we suspect that this is what it is. So no, it can't happen. Now, there's other ways that you'll know that demons could be in a house. Say the person in a house committed suicide in a house, or that a homicide took place there. The demon that actually helped to make that happen, or facilitated that death, may still be in that house, and could still be, hanging around there and making trouble in the house. So there's all kinds of things like that could be going on. But these are demons who are behind this. This is really the predominant teaching of the church, that it is a demon. The church has never officially pronounced upon the essential nature of spiritualistic phenomena such as ghosts, but it does suspect that diabolical agencies are responsible for those manifestations that do occur.
Well,
I hope that helps.
And I don't know, I was thinking about this as you were talking. Obviously the senses, we don't have the senses once we die, because they're all oriented toward the body. Our sense of smell, our sense of hearing, we all have the capacity to do that through the body, which is also the way in which the evil one tempts us. He tempts us through the senses. He makes something appear beautiful. It isn't. He makes something sound pleasing when it's not. So he tempts us in those ways. So I was thinking about the fact too that one of the ways in which we can discern truth from falsehood is also through the senses and through the emotions that we feel, right? So if something's of the Lord, this is not a pure test, but it is a test. If something is of the Lord, it's not going to provoke fear in us in that way. It'll provoke a fear in us, a holy awe of God's power and might, but it will not provoke an unsettling, a discombobulated fear. Now, I say that we still have to, even if we feel good about something, or it produces a warm feeling within us, we still have to test it, because we know from the lives of the saints that oftentimes, I'm thinking of Catherine of Siena, for example, where the evil one appeared to her as if he were the Virgin Mary. And her spiritual director said, no, that was a demon. And so, the initial manifestation might connote something pleasing to us, but that's based on what our prior notion of that which is presenting itself would present to us. You know what I mean? If we thought it was the Blessed Mother, then we would feel a warm feeling because we love Our Lady. But you have to pay attention to what it says to us, how it behaves. All of these things will give clues as to whether or not it's from the Lord. But his goal is not to terrify us. His goal is to lead us towards him. So it seems antithetical to me that something that causes such fear, trauma, and is really there just to discombobulate our existence is going to come from God. Not likely. You agree?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that the minute you have that, well, I mean, Our Lady was terrified when she saw the angel appear.
Right.
But he quickly, of course, calmed her down and told her that ghosts don't do that.
Yeah,
they don't
right.
say, hey, don't be afraid. They tend to loom over you even more the minute they're fed by your fear.
Right.
So,
and it might not have even been the sight of the angel that terrified Our Lady. I mean, she was a well-educated Jewish young lady, and she knew what the Shekinah glory was. She understood that, and it could have been, oh my goodness, I know what this is. Why is this happening to me? A fear of, in her humility, what on earth? And the angel says, do not fear, Mary. You have found favor with God. It's okay, girlfriend. Everything's going to be all right here. Let's go to Catherine. She's in Elko, Nevada. YouTube is the way she's with us. She's a first-time caller. Ringing my first-time caller bell for you, Catherine. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
morning. How are you?
Morning. Well, how are you? Thanks for holding. You're a patient lady.
Oh, I have a toddler, so it's not hard to wait.
Oh, good. So tell us what your question is.
So I have a question about essential oils. My husband almost bought some, and I told him not to because I had heard that they have a cult background. And originally I thought they were just, like he did, that they were just like some kind of like medical healing thing, but I thought it wasn't legitimate until I heard that they had some occult background, like thing. I don't know how to explain it. So I was just curious if things like doTERRA and Young Living oils are bad.
Okay, go ahead, Sue.
First of all, the essential oil itself there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the essence of a plant that there's nothing wrong with that. God created that plant. It's fine. Essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, essential oils, there's a lot of hype about how it heals this and heals that, and how it has antimicrobial qualities, and it can, people are using it for tonsillitis and all kinds of stuff like that. And there's absolutely no really good clinical, unbiased scientific evidence to prove that. They are still testing it, but there is none out there. Now, it's tied with the occult. Essential oils have been used in magic rituals for centuries. I mean, it's just an everyday part of witchcraft. They use that, to weave their spells. Lemon is used to make offerings to the moon god, to break curses. Frankincense is used doing shadow work, is what they call it, to draw good luck. Peppermint draws money and love and healing and positive change. Bergamot is used to boost a spell that they're trying to work. So they've been using that for centuries that way. And not only do they use the oils in that way, but they have a tendency to bless their little concoctions of the different mixes of oils. And some of them will bless their oils by leaving them in the moonlight for like a full rotation of the moon. Others suggest burying a bottle of the blends for several days, or chanting over the oil every night. And focusing your energy on the oil. And sadly, you have a lot of mimicry going on with the doTERRA and the Young Living essential oils, in that they're coming up with all these blends too. And anytime you see a blend that's saying, hey, use this blend and it's going to, give you prosperity or something, you automatically don't go anywhere near that. And as a matter of fact, Gary Young, he's actually on the record for blessing, putting a blessing on the oil and instructing his distributors how to do it, how to hold the oil in the hand, project your thoughts into the oil and give it a blessing. And that's why a lot of people get freaked out about using these multi-level marketing distribution chains of essential oils, because you don't know who might be blessing these oils and what kind of blessing is it, and do you really want to use that, Right. So a lot of people are becoming a little bit more prudent about the use of essential oils. And especially, I warn people away from blends, abundance. That's one of Young Living's, and it's a mix of different things, and it's to create harmonic magnetic energy. White Angelica is supposedly enhances the body's aura and brings about a sense of strength and endurance. Many people use as protection against negative energy. This is all superstition. And do we really want to be involved in stuff like that with essential oils? They smell good. That's about all. The testing on it really has not been, it's just not unbiased. The cohorts are too small. There's methodological flaws in just about all of the studies that are out there. So even the ones that are being touted and saying, oh no, this is true, but they've all been published in alternative medicine journals, not in mainstream medicine, because they're not meeting that standard yet. And I'm not saying that won't happen, but as of right now, it really hasn't, in spite of what they're saying out there. But come on, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar. So you can't negate that. That's got something to do with its popularity for sure. Does that help you at all?
Yes, it does. So basically what you're saying then is, if it's something that you're using for a fragrance, for example, like potpourri or, to fragrance your house, that's one thing. But if you're using it, you can like buyer beware kind of a thing, right?
Right. And it's
and
not.
A little bit, and I think she's saying a little bit more than that too, Catherine, because she's saying that, what people of this ilk call blessing, we would call curse, right? So, to be judicious in purchasing whatever it is that you would purchase in that line. Am I right, Sue?
Absolutely. That is a strong warning, and we have given that warning on our blog. And I do that when I have people personally writing to me on the New Age, through Women of Grace. I say that over and over and over again. Stop using those blends. Do not go near the blends. Stay away from the blends. And if you even want to stay away from multi-level marketing, and anything that's distributed in that way, because a lot of women are saying to me, well, I don't trust it. How do I know who blessed this? And it goes through so many hands. And just use prudence when dealing with essential oils, and don't buy into all this. I can use this to heal this, heal that, and heal the other thing. If it's anything contagious or life-threatening, the ethical directives for Catholic healthcare workers states very clearly that you are to use conventional proven means, what they call ordinary means, to treat those things. You are not to use untested means such as essential oils for anything that is life-threatening or contagious. That is not church teaching. You should not be doing it for those reasons. And you don't just say to yourself, well, I'm going to pretend I'm the scientist and I like what I'm looking at in this study because this proponent of essential oils is saying that this is a good study and it really sounds good, and they know how to make it sound really good and how to make it sound great. Be very, very careful. If that has not been proven science, do not use it for anything contagious or life-threatening. That's considered to be an offense against charity.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, and thank you for that excellent explanation, Sue. That's very important what you were saying right there. And we, this is the common sense part of our faith. God gave us intellect so that we can reason through these things, right? And the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. Let's go to Marlena. She's in Bakersfield, California, Sue. Sirius XM 130 is the way she's with us. Marlena, another patient woman you are. Thank you.
Good morning. Hi, Johnnette.
Hi.
I was calling kind of with a comment, because what you said in your intro was so true to my experience. I went to a Catholic university about 30 years ago, and it was around 88, 89 that I experienced this, and it was up in Portland, Oregon. And I was going through their nursing program. And I remember one of the nursing classes, the professor had a guest come in. She brought a little leather bag of crystals, handed them out to all of the nursing students in that class, and then asked for a volunteer to come up, and some poor unknowing soul went forward. They started doing all kinds of things of unraveling auras and all kinds of things in front of us. We don't even know what they're doing. But they asked all of us to pray, holding the crystals, and they talked about the energy that's in the crystals, but they asked us to pray. And I remember myself and one other young lady, we just raised our hands, and they wouldn't call on us, but we just kept our hand up and just stayed patient, but held our hand up. And finally somebody called on me, and I said, I was wanting to know who you're asking us to pray to. She wouldn't answer the question. She went on talking about something else. And so finally I just kept my hand up, and I said, I'm sorry, I need to know who you're asking us to pray to. And she got very uncomfortable, and finally she said, the universe.
Oh, dear.
And so I just wanted other people in the class to see what they were doing. But the sad part is that has kind of become, you talked about how an institution kind of confers a certain amount of
credibility.
Authentic credibility, exactly. Here you are at a university, a Catholic university, and unfortunately, from what I've looked at from their website, that it is now a therapeutic touch, and it's been actually formally incorporated into their nursing curriculum as well as yoga. So it's just sad that some young people are being exposed to that, but also the patients that are being exposed down the road, because they're taught that that is a medical treatment, a legitimate medical treatment, and that sometimes patients are exposed to that without ever asking permission as well. And I just wanted to highlight that, and I know you know a whole lot more, but that was a pretty shocking exposure for me.
Well, I just want to give you kudos, Marlena, that you continue to be persistent and that you knew enough to ask a very intelligent question, which many people would naturally assume it was God they were praying to. But you knew that something here was funny, and you followed that intuition, which I'm going to call discernment, and you got the answer that needed to be stated so that everybody could see. The charlatan was revealed, is what I'm trying to say. So, Sue, I want you to comment on Marlena and the mixing together of this kind of a thing into a religious practice. We had Angela that called in, and she was talking about a woman who they pray the rosary with, who's mixing holy water with essential oils. What about that? And then we've got Elisa in Dallas, Texas, asking this: is it acceptable to use clay treatment to restore energy flow in the body? All of these three, I think, pivot on the same point that Marlena is making. What about all this? We have 90 seconds, Sue.
Absolutely. This is all based on this putative form of energy that has no scientific basis. Unfortunately, the nursing organizations are really at the forefront of pushing this and getting this into hospitals and getting this. They're actually, giving nurses credits for taking courses in this stuff, even though this energy has never been substantiated. And this makes many, many scientists and doctors just shake their head and wonder what is going on with these people. Why are they doing this? Why are they putting this stuff forth? In fact, the Catholic Medical Association, they published a paper on therapeutic touch, which is something that Marlena, you mentioned, and it's called Therapeutic Touch is Not a Catholic Hospital Pastoral Practice. I mean, what more do you need? And then you have the USCCB, who issued a paper saying that Reiki is not to be used anywhere. So, I mean, our church is speaking out against this. Why it's in a Catholic university, I simply do not know. And as far as Elisa's question about, can you use this treatment to restore energy flow in the body? What kind of energy flow are they talking about? Because, clay doesn't restore really any of the veritable forms of energy flow in our body. They're talking putative here. This is how you can spot the new age, how it creeps into things, because that is more than likely chi that they're talking about there.
Well, there you have it. More with Sue Brinkman next Wednesday. God bless y'all. Bye-bye.